What's up guys, how's it going? My name is Randall. I'm a developer advocate here at Okta, and tonight I'm going to show you how to add authentication into any web page you have in just a few short minutes. So let's get right into it. The first thing you're going to need to do, if you haven't done it already, is go to developer.okta.com and click the sign up button and create a new developer account. So Okta is a free service, and what we do is we allow you to store user accounts for any applications you're building, web apps, mobile apps, or API services. And we handle all of the user authentication, authorization, social login, single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, basically anything to do with handling users and logging them in, logging them out, managing all their credentials. That's what the Okta service does. Now, once you go create an account and you log into your account, you'll see something like this. This is my Okta account. This is the Okta dashboard. So you'll see something similar to this. And what we're going to be doing is basically taking a web page I've already built, which I'm going to show you right now. So I'm basically in this directory on my computer here called EX, and I basically got a single file in this directory, an index.html, which is a really simple web page that I just threw together. So this is the entirety of the page. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch into my other terminal tab, and I'm going to use Python to basically run my web page as a local web server, just so I can test it out in the browser. Now, if you haven't done this before, if you have a version of Python 3 installed on your computer, a really easy way to start a web server is run the Python command. So say python-m http.server and then tell it what port you want to run on. So in this case, I'm just going to run a local web server on port 8080. So if I go to my computer, localhost 8080 in the browser, bam, this is what my web page looks like. So basically, let's assume you've got a web page. Now it could be any web page, but I'm just going to show you how to do it on this one. The next thing you're going to want to do is plug in the Okta developer widget. This is like a JavaScript library Okta has, which you plug into any web page, which handles all this stuff. And that's how we're going to make this happen in just a couple minutes. So if you go to the developer.okta.com homepage and click the docs link, then click JavaScript, then click Authentication Guide. There's a lot of different options of different ways to integrate with Okta. The one I'm going to show you how to use is the Okta sign-in widget. So come down here, you can read the instructions yourself later on and figure out exactly what to do. It's basically going to walk you through something similar to what I will walk you through, but we're going to fast track it today, right? So the next thing you're going to want to do is get the widget set up. So the first thing we're going to do is go into the Okta dashboard and create a new application. Now in Okta, you can have a lot of different applications for different projects you're working on. So I'm just going to click and create a new one. When you see, when you're asked what type of application you want to create, you're going to select single page app because we're just going to build a single page, really simple static site. You can then give your app a name, so like my example app. You can tell it what URL your site's running on. In this case, we're going to modify this login redirect URI. So once the user's logged in, we're just going to send them right back to the exact same page, localhost 8080. And then you can also choose what users are allowed to log in and log out and handle all that stuff. I'm going to click done. Now, behind the scenes, Okta is creating a new OpenID Connect application for us. So Okta is all based around standard technologies. OpenID Connect is sort of the latest, greatest standard for managing web authentication. And so that's what's happening behind the scenes here. Now, if you're wondering how to manage users, how to register them and log them in and all that stuff, you can actually go to this Users tab, and you can create users, you can create groups, you can do all sorts of really cool stuff. I'm just going to show you the quick intro today, but feel free to poke around here and have some fun later on. Now I'm going to go back to the dashboard. Now, the first thing we're going to need to do is enable the Okta widget library to run. And so let's do that real quick. I'm going to copy over from the docs the JavaScript tags that we need to put in the head of our HTML page. So here's the first one. This first script tag is going to load up the latest version of the Okta widget JavaScript. This link tag right here is going to load up the included style sheet. So there's a couple themes that are built in to make it look nice. And then here's another style sheet down below. And basically all of this together is going to allow us to have a nice looking login form embedded in our page. So after that, what we need to do is write some JavaScript code to actually tell the widget what to do, to actually enable it, to turn it on, to handle all that stuff. So we're going to come down here, we're going to paste our code. I'm going to clean this up for you in a second. Give me one sec. There we go. Whoops. There we go. And finally, what we need to do is before the script, we actually need to create a div, which is going to hold our new login form once it's on the page. So we're going to create a div called, what are we going to call this thing? Sign in container. There we go. We don't need to put anything in this div. This is just a placeholder. So the way the widget library works is eventually, depending on what's happening on the page, it will render a login form or do some other stuff that we tell it to. So now we got this empty div where our form is going to be rendered. We have our web page over here, and we have some JavaScript code that powers the widget. So let's take a look at how it works and what we need to tweak. Now, the first thing we need to do up at the top here is we're basically enabling the widget, and we're giving it some configuration data. We're basically telling it what application are we going to use and how do we know what Okta account to talk to. And that's what this setting stuff is for. Now, you'll see in here I've pre-filled some variable names, and we're going to need to grab these from our Okta dashboard. So the org URL is basically your unique Okta organization that is hooked up to all of your applications. So we're just going to copy this org URL out of your dashboard page and just put it in wherever it says your org URL in the code right here. Bam. So done with that. Now the only variable we have left is this your app client ID. So if we go back to the applications tab and we look at the application you created a moment ago, this example app, we're just going to copy the client ID out of there. And this is what's going to tell the widget what specific application are these users going to be interacting with. So we just plug that in there. Now the rest of this code is actually already set up and working, which I will show you in a moment, but let me just walk you through it. The first block up here in this if statement is basically saying if the user is trying to log in, what are we going to do? And basically what we do is if the user is trying to log in and the login was successful, we're going to store the user's tokens in HTML5 local storage for safekeeping, and we're going to display a nice little message to the user to say, hey, you've just logged in. Now we're going to, just keep it real simple. So otherwise, if the user isn't trying to log in, then we're going to check to see, is the user already logged in? And if they are, and the user's account is active, then we're going to say, hey, you're still logged in. And finally, if none of that happens, then basically there is no user, no one's logged in. So what we're going to do is we're going to render a new login form into that empty div called sign-in container. You see this right here, that we predefined up above. And so that's sort of the way that this logic works. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to open up a new incognito tab. I'm going to go to localhost port 8080. I'm going to open the JavaScript console so you can take a look at what's happening. And basically, bam, we now have this nice login form. And this is what the sign-in widget is giving you. It's handling all of this user state for you. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is actually log in. Now, as I mentioned before, you can go and create user accounts and do all that stuff a little bit later. I already created some. And you can also log in with the user account credentials you used to create your Okta account, which is sort of interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and log in with my credentials from there. I'm going to sign in. And bam. Now you can basically see, I'll close out of the console, that the message is updated. It says, hello, art@degs.com, and knows my user's email. You just logged in. Now if I refresh the page, it now says, hey, you are still logged in because it recognizes me from before. I have an active user session. Now, this is basically it for today. This is how you can add any sort of user login into any web page in just a couple minutes. There's a lot more things Okta can do. Go check out developer.okta.com to learn more. We have our documentation here, which is really fantastic. If you're interested in going through tutorials and getting help from people like me and my coworkers, go to the blog. We have lots of great articles. And of course, this YouTube channel is also a great reference. So that's it for tonight. Have a good one and talk to you soon. Happy hacking.